And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and all the cosmic creatures in between. We are here for yet another deep dive into timelessness. These are the weekly Satsang for the souls, as held by myself, Mark Bentley, and the delightful Lee Grain, who is joining me today. And these sessions are essentially an opportunity to come together each week and to take a moment together to really drop into presence and to contemplate conscious conversation around, what's coming up in our personal lives, in the collective around us, and to serve as an anchor for all of us as we're awakening to this new way of moving through the world. We're seeing economic transformation, we're seeing political transformation, personal evolution. We're seeing all of these things happening at a rate that is, I personally have never witnessed, even in our history books. And so during these times, we can be stuck trying to strive towards achieving something and getting it right because it feels very scary and insecure. And these moments in time, these satsang for the souls, are about helping us to let go of needing to know, about let go of needing to have control of everything, but rather trusting deeper in the magic of life and playing with these codes, not as truths, but as little keys for contemplation that unlock higher aspects of ourselves and kind of brings us into a more calm, relaxed state. So with that being said, we always like to start with some beautiful music by Magical Lee. So hello, Lee.
Hey there.
Good
morning, everyone, and good evening wherever you are. How you doing?
All yours, Lee.
For us on this part of the world, this morning is a white magnetic wizard, all about timelessness, receptivity, and enchantment. So opening our time together with this song that I wrote many moons ago called Answer. Time stood by in front of me with my eyes so wide, but I couldn't see, and I wanted to ask her something. Clock stopped turning, I don't know. Somehow deep down there is glow, and I wonder if you see it. But when my head's down facing the water, the vision's clear. Now I know there is my answer. There it is. Oh, there it is, there it is, there it is. I feel so wired, but I couldn't move. With the silent music there is groove, and I wonder if you hear it. And then the clouds stop by with a bigger smile, and I look to the sky, it's a paradise, and I wonder, can you see it? But when my head's down facing the water, the vision's clear. Now I know there is my answer. Oh, there it is. Oh, there it is. There it is. Oh, there it is, there it is, there it is. Time. Another beautiful day.
A beautiful way to come in. Thank you, Lee.
Thank you.
You know what? I think I've said this multiple times, but it's it's such a beautiful thing to have your music to help ground. And I think it speaks so much to the importance and the power of music and art, right, in our time, to take us out of that left brain, you know, analytical thinking, to be able to just be present, to be able to really hear and hone. And every time I hear your voice, it helps me just to relax a little bit, you know, slowly relax that, you know, show voice I've got that's a protection, you know, as I'm kind of getting comfortable, and just listening to your tunes just helps my whole body relax. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you. So looking forward to this time every week. It's been a good rhythm that we have. Again, after every song, it's like that moment of silence where we can just kind of drop into the space. How you feeling this week?
Really good. I've been feeling, Lee, it just then when you said that, I just had like this hyper awareness around, you know, how uncomfortable we can be sometimes as a collective with moments of silence, you know, those moments of pause between conversation, you know, especially doing something like this, or people are so busy, you know, they're always doing, you know, live streams, or they're catching up with somebody, or doing this and that. And, you know, if you ever sat around a table with, you know, having a couple with somebody, and the conversation's just going, and then all of a sudden there's just this moment where it doesn't lead anywhere, and you're just left in this stillness, and you can almost feel the tension build where people aren't used to that. They're not comfortable for that kind of, that silence, but yet there's such a powerful element hiding in that stillness, hiding in
absolutely
that, you know. Really
so many amazing musicians have said before, it's the silence or the spaces in between notes where the beauty is. And I really resonated with that, because, you know, for me it could be just 5 notes over and over, but it depends on how much you're spacing. And at the same time, like you said, we're not comfortable in silence most of the time, especially in group conversations and such. It's always the need to fill the spaces with unnecessary chatter. It's just a good reminder for us to take a moment to breathe. And is it the Dalai Lama who said this? When we talk, we're just repeating things that we've seen or we've read. These are just thoughts. But when we listen, when being silent, we can actually learn something new. So that listen and silent, all the same jumbled letters together, must mean something.
What a beautiful.
Go ahead.
I insist.
And I was just saying, as we, in this part of the world where we are ahead of time, you know, sun rises and begins in Australia. New Year happens in Australia first, right? The world.
Yeah. I think New Zealand's a little bit ahead of us. And
okay, so maybe New Zealand. So the first one to celebrate the New Year. Which goes to say, in the dream spell, if you're listening from the West or the US, and it's still yesterday for you while it's already the next day for us. So here it is the White Wizard wave spell, which is we are on day 1 already here where we are. Welcome to Rome that's joining us in the Zoom room.
Yes, the beautiful Rome is here. And Lee, I think Rome's going to be our session, the dream spell reading for today. Rome, thank you so much for coming, brother. Rome's been awesome. He's a massive supporter of CloutForum. He's done awesome bits of art for so many of the different creators. And Rome, you've just been such an amazing energy on the platform of BitClout. And so it'd be an amazing gift we can give to you towards the end of the session. So I've got his date of birth there ready to go.
Sweet.
And just want to do a shout out as well, Lee. We've got Big Man Town tuning in on Twitch, who was saying clap, clap, clap for your music. So sending some love there.
Thank you.
So welcome. And Alex the man behind CloutForum himself is on YouTube. So I've got a few of those things I'll just be keeping an eye on around the place quietly in the background. So if you guys are watching the live streams, feel free, join in, help co-create the chat. Your comments are welcome, and we'll have a bit of fun together. But, Lee, going back to what you were sharing just before, because I feel like everything has already been such a beautiful setup for this white wizard wave spell that we're opening up. So, if you're new to this, as Lee was saying, we track something called the dream spell calendar, which is based on the ancient Mayan Tzolk'in, a 260-day cycle that essentially, in one way, as you could say, maps the evolution of consciousness. And, this kind of rhythm of evolution that we move through, that helps to draw out the potential of humanity, to help activate and like a time release program, wake us up into our next stages. And today here in Australia and Philippines, we're moving into, as you were saying, Lee, this white wizard wave spell. And I think it's so powerful the way this conversation even began without intention around silence and that space, right? As you were saying, it's like dropping into that receptivity, the listening, and for me, this is really what the white wizard represents a lot in our culture, in our collective, this energy, this archetype. There's no truths, nothing that you need to take as a belief system here, by the way. If you're watching this, listening to this is just codes for contemplation. And as we move into this white wizard wave spell over this next 13 days, it got me really thinking about, it's a very powerful archetype that is very much about, it looks at the process of what does it take to bring true enchantment into our reality. What does it take to wake up the fairy tale in our everyday, mundane, boring lives, if that's what it feels like for you out there? It's like, how do we allow ourselves to open up, to believe, to not even to believe, but to be open to something so much more than just this matter in that sense. And I think we've already touched on one of the most important things that is going to be a theme for this next 13 days ahead from today, this next 2-week period, is what does it take to open up our receptivity as individuals and as collectives? What does it take to listen, to be able to truly hear each other? And it reminds me of something, I think it was Richard Rudd from the Gene Keys once said in the Venus sequence, which is all about, love and relationships and partnerships. And it was something really magical. It was this really potent line that essentially went something like this: how can you truly love somebody if you think that you know them? And I thought that was such a powerful contemplation, because, so many out there, I'm sure everyone goes, oh, it's my brother, it's my sister, I know them better than anyone. It's like, oh, it's my lover, it's my partner, of course I know them. Yet I challenge every one of you that feel that way to think about, do you really know yourself? And I got to say, hands down, I don't know myself that well. Like, I know myself, like I've spent a lifetime of exploring it, but I don't really know everything. I'm still learning about myself all the time. So how could you, Lee, truly know who I am if I don't even know who I am? How can any of us know who each of us are? And so he was really leading to this idea that if you want to have an enchanted relationship, and this goes for lovers, family, everything in life, right? If you really want an enchanted relationship, then how much can you let go of needing to know, or needing to feel like you know for sure who that other person is, but rather be open in every day, every moment, to receiving a new aspect, to see something different, a new way of being, shining, emanating from that person. Just like a child as they're growing up, every year I see my son, new parts coming out. And the more that I think I know who he is, the more I get in the way of him becoming who he is. And so that's just been what's been stewing around for me, just really contemplating, the power of this next 2 weeks for us as an individual and collective, of how do we safely let go of needing to know and really drop into that space,
Sometimes the hardest thing to do is to not do anything. We're so hardwired into movement and this, the yang energy, you know, and yin and yang. The yang is more of the masculine principle, just like the sun, which is more outward expression, you know, out there. The movement is to go forward. And the opposite of that is to go in, which is the feminine. It's a feminine energy to just receive. And even in women, you know, when we talk about masculine and feminine, we're not talking about biological makeup of someone. We're talking about energetic principles that we see and observe in the world, in the nature. And so each and every single human being has a masculine and feminine energy in the body. And, you know, we have that, the certain qualities that when it's imbalanced, then, you know, that's when we fall into stress and stuff. And usually it's because our masculine energy is hyperactive, all the doing and nonstop doing. And we forget that we have to stop sometimes, that we have to take a break and take a pause sometimes, you know. And that's really the beautiful dance of the sun and the moon. The sun, as we know, and the moon, as we know, is there 24/7. They're just doing their movements around the sun, but you don't necessarily, the sun doesn't necessarily go to sleep and say, hey, I'm going to wake up after 12 hours. No, it just so happens to travel around the earth. And so does the moon. And so they're always present. And I think for me, that's a representation of these principles or energies are also present in the body. And it has to be in balance. You know, one is awake 12 hours of the day, and then the next half of the day is really like coming into pause, relaxation. You know, the moon comes up at night when the sun goes down, and in nature, it's the symbol for birds and all the animals to, you know, when the sun goes down, it's the symbol for them to start finding that place to rest. They don't go out and like, okay, the sun is going down, it's partying time, let's get active even more. I'm done with my work, and so I'm gonna go out there and expel more energy. And then we wake up the next day and then we feel like, oh, so exhausted. Life is so exhausting. Work is so exhausting, and so is everything else. And so the question is, where do we have imbalances in our lives? You know, and how can we create that balance? Man and nature, it depends on our relationship with nature, because we could be so disconnected to the nature's rhythm, and the rhythm could be, you know, the Schumann's resonance. If you've heard of Schumann resonance before, it's that heartbeat of the planet. It's just that rhythm, and now it's changing, the Schumann resonance. And it's our heartbeat that is tied to the heartbeat of the earth. You know, and as women, our moon cycles are tied to the rhythm of the moon. So this is a beautiful dance of synergy, of being tuned in to the cycles of nature, because we know that our body is also nature inside. We have the elements of earth, air, water in our blood, earth as our body, air is our breath, what is fire in our bellies. So it's all about balance. And when we come out, when we are out of that balance, then that's when we start to really feel disconnected. And the feminine helps us to remember to just come back, that not everything is do. We can also just be, you know, to take a pause, know that when you're, you know, my wish for everybody is I wish that all of us can be so tuned in with our own bodies that we know when our body is telling us that we should stop, that we should just take a break and just not get pulled into the things that we need to do, so that we can allow ourselves to recalibrate every single day.
I can almost feel a sadness in my body as you're saying that, like, you know, for this place we've found ourselves in the world where it's like, you know, when I say sadness, it's almost like a sweet melancholy, almost like, whoa. But at the same time, you know, just even in you bringing that up, brings it into our awareness that, bam, right there, there's a moment of choice that we can make, you know, to allow more of that space, to allow more of that receptivity. And as you were talking, it's, you know, I saw these visions of, you know, how so many of us, and I'm very much reliant these days in my car on a GPS. You know, I've got my screen in the car, you know, I pop in my address of where I want to go to, and then I let go to that GPS in my car that will tell me the directions. And in doing that, I can relax more with whoever's in my car, right? As a passenger, I can talk to them, I can relax, I can enjoy more of the view because I'm not worrying, thinking about where I'm going. I'm just kind of trusting in the intuition of my vehicle. It knows where it needs to go. I've given it my instructions and off we go. I don't need to work out the details, right? And so in some ways it kind of feels like, you know, what you're speaking to is, you know, that receptivity of, you know, really trusting in our own intuition within us, right? Be able to slow down and trust that, like you're saying, listening to our body's GPS. Because this is something that I think we're going to see with this enchantment that's coming ahead, is our science is starting to open up. Science is starting to open the right brain. It's starting to realize there's things that the left brain can't access properly until the right brain helps it comprehend it, in a sense, through storytelling and things. And I think we're going to start seeing this more and more, you know, like you were talking, Lee, with the Schumann resonance, you know, the heartbeat of the earth. And then we've got our heartbeats. We've seen, you know, in biology and the rest, how a child's heartbeat matches the mother or father's heartbeat when it's skin to skin. You know, we've seen how each other's heartbeats, you know, the field, electromagnetic field around our hearts connects and creates harmonics or not with each other, right? And so we've seen that our energy field interacts with all of these things. So it makes absolute sense from, you know, in my eyes, from a scientific point of view as well, that the earth is our tuning fork. You know, it is where we come back home to. And the second, you know, as you know, I love my tech. I was thinking about these, you know, these induction pads that you get for charging your phones, right? What's really interesting about these, big shout out to Dream, by the way. I used to work for them in Bali, which is where this one came from. So, you know, these things, I'm sure a lot of people have seen them. All you need to do is put the phone there and it begins to charge. It just goes on, no plugs, nothing. It just goes within a field, and that field stimulates the current. There it is, starts charging, and nothing's plugged in, right? And the reason I'm bringing this up is because, in a way, as you were talking, it made me kind of have this little realization that that's what nature is. You know, that's what the planet is. The planet is our human induction charging pad. It's like, if you want to charge your phone, you put it on the induction pad. You want to charge your human vehicle, go stand out barefoot on the dirt, surrounded by nature, with the greatest power source in our galaxy right above us, the sun, right? That is beaming photons and light and energy. The very things that creates everything on this planet is right there for us to stand and receive. Vitamin D, one of the most powerful things for our current time right now, comes from there, comes from charging up in that great induction pad of Earth, right? And so it's so funny how our technology mimics, you know, our natural abilities. And sometimes we have to see it in our technology to realize, I could have just walked outside. Yeah, right. You know, and then once we get that energy, we charge up in nature, we slow down and go inwards and listen with that feminine nature, with that right brain, with that intuitiveness, and let our logical masculine be guided by that intuition, right? That flow, that connection. And then I think we're going to see an efficiency that is beyond anything pure logical masculine mind could ever dream of. But it needs magic, and it needs to be able to trust, you know, in that intuition.
Even the sun, and this is something I learned recently. My mom has been battling COVID for the past 7 days, and she is unvaccinated. She was supposed to get vaccinated soon, and then it hit her without leaving the home. And this is something that is mind-boggling, but it's like, can't really try to find the source of where you get it, because it's everywhere now. One thing that I've learned from our naturopath doctor, shout out to Dr. Eka, is if you can get some sun, which is the highest source of vitamin D, like 10 to 15 minutes, midday sun. She told us that that also increases the melatonin level of the body, which we need to sleep. I think about what you're saying, to go out there and just to receive in the sun. And I think about that image of even the sun is giving our body the signal to start releasing melatonin. So by the time the nighttime comes, we can sleep. And I'm like, wow, nature is amazing. Nature's intelligence is just amazing. And I could not even, say it enough how I was just like floored by that. Of course, I know that receiving vitamin D from the sun is good, but I didn't realize, aside from receiving vitamin D, it also signals my body to produce melatonin at the end of the day. And for those of you who don't know, melatonin is something that our body creates to sleep. Some people actually take some melatonin supplements to help increase the melatonin in the body, but it's the level of melatonin in the body that really gets us that deep sleep. And if you can go out there in the sun, see how you feel when you go to sleep later, and if that really works for you.
My brother was actually talking about something similar, in the sense of like, creating good, healthy routines in your daily life. And this person was talking about the importance of when you wake up, one of the first things he was saying that we should do is walk out and greet the sun. If the sun's up when you wake up, to walk out to greet the sun, because in a way it's like, that's the almost like clocking on. If you think about, like, we grow up in tribal times, we didn't have the artificial lighting and the housing. So the first thing you did when you woke up was to get out of your dark hut and go into the sun, and begin the morning routines. And it's incredible, right, Lee? Like, it's right in front of us and it's been there the whole time, but and again, this is that trap of the intellect, the left brain, that logical part that thinks that it can control by learning and knowing everything. That paradoxically, this was being talked about on a podcast I was listening to this morning, actually, as well, that our sciences have become so caught up in thinking that they know the details of how things work and solutions and fixing them, that, they're taking teeth out to try and prevent this, that, and they're doing this and they're doing that, without actually dropping back to realizing that maybe moving away from that natural flow of life, of all those mechanisms that we haven't noticed are actually built into nature to help look after us. And we've separated from them so much, going into our chicken coop houses and suburbs. And, even, in a lot of places, neighbors don't talk anymore. They don't have these connections, all this circuitry is broken. And we've basically got these battery humans in, chicken coops that are so disconnected from this. Artificial lighting is a big culprit for this, that allows us to go until midnight, that allows us to go beyond those hours and disturb our routines. And it really makes me wonder, what would happen? And, I just hope someday I'll get to run this experiment with Felix. What would happen if we just went to an island somewhere without the electromagnetic fields, without all the internet and the mobile coverage, without all these distractions, without all the lights, and go back to just living a natural cycle for a month? What would happen to our everyday perception of reality? Would it become the same mundane, day in, day out? Or would every day have a magic to it? Would it actually start becoming more enchanted? Would we become more in tune to be able to then hear those frequencies that are hiding, that magic that is all around us right now, but we can't see it if we're not tuned into it, right?
The
And so
interesting thing is that when you spend time in nature, time really slows down. And when you're in the city, it is so fast. But when you find yourself, it doesn't have to really be a nature, but if you have your garden or something, you go out there and you're with your plants, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, you're just in that world. You're tuned in to that world, and nature slows down the heartbeat, slows down the breath. It's a de-stressing environment, because you are just connecting to the natural flow. You're connecting to this energy, and it is true with people who really work with the earth. People, farmers, what you'd see that they're very strong. They receive a lot of light from the sun. They dig their hands in the dirt, which has all the different bacteria, all the different minerals that we need, that seeps into our skin. They eat food that directly comes from the soil, food that receives sunlight. That light that is from the sun is in the food that we eat. So farm to table, one of the best things to eat your vegetables, instead of your vegetables traveling I don't know how many miles before it gets to your local market. So these things supports the body in so many different ways. And even if we can't go into nature, it helps us find that sense of balance. But when we don't, and we're eating processed food on top of being in the city, on top of working a graveyard shift, that automatically puts us in imbalance. And some people just have to do what they have to do because it's work. I mean, don't feel bad also if that's the kind of state of life that you find yourself in, because we all have different ways of living. I think the key here is find balance. I'm not saying that that's a bad job when you're working at night, or so we got to do what we got to do, but find balance where you can. Find balance in different things to support your body if you are already in this really high stressful kind of work, or time that you need to work. So again, it's just, we just make shift with what's available.
Yeah. And I think that's such a really important point that you bring up, where, because they can feel this pressure, right? This pressure of needing to get it right, because what often happens, Ken Wilber talks about this idea of waking up and growing up, right? And he talks about the idea of waking up is where you wake up and you shift your perception. You begin to see how things are working. You begin to understand, and you begin to become aware of the pain and the suffering that we create through our actions and through our things. But you can wake up and talk about it as much as you like, but until you grow up and start taking the actions in your everyday life, it's pointless. And in fact, it can become even more destructive sometimes. This is something I've been a big culprit of myself personally in, the spiritual communities. I found myself, waking up quite early in my life to be able to see these things, but it actually caused more pain and suffering, because I had a very hard time trying to work out how to take my Peter Pan waking up perspective and actually walk on this planet in the current world the way it was, right? Feeling like I can't go to a job, I can't do those things, I can't, that's giving up, or that's surrendering, or that's, playing and really coming back to that point, like you've been sharing, that for me, more and more, it's about the perfection of this moment, surrendering into this moment, no matter how it looks to you, no matter how intense, whether you're in war-torn lands or you're in, blissful tropical islands, or whatever the story is for you right now, is all that matters for you right now, right? Is how much can you surrender into your story right now? And in human design, which is another body of work that I do that helps understand, you know, how to make decisions, right? How do we find our direction? How do we drive? How do we grow up? How do we take these steps? How do we know which step to take? In the sessions when I work with people, you know, I always make sure to bring in, you know, that it's not about getting it right. It's about bringing awareness into what you're doing and then seeing this as a human experiment. You know, that if you can accept everything that has led up to this moment as perfect, then it gives you freedom from the past to be able to decide how you're going to weave the very next moment. That is free will, right? In that moment, we can make our changes. And if we are caught up in fear, trying to work out with our logical brain, how do I get out of my job and into the new job? Where do I want to be? I want to be over there. I'm going to take this step, that step, do this, do that. Like my body's getting stressed even saying this, right? It's like it just becomes such a mental process. And then it feels overwhelming. Then it feels like, I'm never going to be able to do that. It's not fair. Everyone else gets these, you know, all these stories start firing up. And before you know it, you're cowering in a corner, you know, just kind of like, oh, this is too hard. I want out, right? And I'm sure people listening to this, there's a lot of us, I've felt that recently. I'm sure lots of people have had these experiences when that wave comes. And that's where, for me, it's such an important thing to this thing that you're saying. You know, it's not about, you know, oh, if you're doing a job in the middle of the night, that's not natural cycles, quit it right now and get out. That's the story of our humanity that has led to this point. Now we've got something that's calling us, a change that is underway. But if we logically try and work out how to get from this, you know, 2 a.m. lunch break in this crappy job that I'm not liking to this beautiful living in the cycles world, if we try to work that out logically, we're just going to cause more pain and suffering. We're going to get in each other's way. We're going to get in our own way, right? Because the logical mind can't even begin to see the magic that's possible. And so that's where, for me, you know, it's this part of what we're talking about, you know, this intuition, leading with the feminine, trusting, you know, that faith. It's what all the religions talked about. Faith, not faith in a God that's going to save you, or faith in this or faith in that, but faith in the, you know, natural synchronic principles, the mathematics of the universe that is striving towards unity. It is striving towards love and heart connection. And no matter what happens, all we need to do as these fingertips of consciousness that's striving for this is to surrender into each moment, listen deeply to our intuition, and find out what is the next step for me. So if it's a 2 a.m. job, find your peace in the 2 a.m. job. Find those moments of magic, right? And open to receptivity, and life will show you what the next step is. If it's to stay in that 2 a.m. job for 10 more years, then maybe that is your magic. Maybe that's your story, and that's okay. But maybe there's opportunities that are going to come. But unless you slow down and start opening to the magic, we'll miss them every time.
I echo that completely. It's sometimes we don't have to logically, it's so delicate to actually to say that, because we do need to logically map out our steps. We can't also just say, I leave it up to the universe, because that's, you know, relinquishing your power to create your own reality. But there is also that magic, like you're saying, to relinquish the need to know in full detail of how. And it begins with the first step of, if you think this job is not the right one for you anymore, and it's not giving you joy, then spend some time in silence, and maybe you will listen. You will be able to listen to what the universe, or what your higher self, or what your own soul is trying to communicate with you. And then it's all about frequency. And again, the frequency, vibration, energies, and everything. And our frequency shifts from time to time. You know, we can use our conscious intent to raise the level of our vibration and such. And science has all, has been telling us, and this is a fact, that, we're just like magnets. And we really can magnetize anything in just the level of our vibration, our frequency, our energy, So again, it brings us to maybe perhaps the more quiet moment that we can spend, not necessarily in nature, maybe in your room before you go to sleep. And maybe that's the time when you receive inspiration. These are like things in the air, ideas. Maybe you'd get to capture all these available ideas for you if you stop and listen. And I love this explanation. I don't know who came up with it. Maybe did Neil Donald Walsh, but like Catholicism way of praying, or in many different religious practices, we pray and we speak to God. And the way to explain meditation when you come into silence is perhaps that's the time where we listen to God answer us. Because in praying, we're just doing all the talking. God, please, please. God, can you please do this for me? God, I thank you. God, this. And it's kind of like, when you phone someone, you're calling God and say, hey, God, listen, I really need your help. Blah, 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 blah. Really, tell me what to do. Okay, bye. And then you go about your day. For me, meditation is when I ask that question and I stay in that moment of silence and see if God will answer me. Maybe for 5 minutes, I can sit here and maybe an answer will come into my space. So this is an invitation for people who want to try meditation for the first time, and see if that will work. For me, the encouragement that I felt that was so organic and resonant for me was that increase the level of silence that you can have for yourself each day. You can start with 2 minutes to 5 to 10. Just go in your own pace. And I think it becomes more achievable when it's done in increments and gradual, instead of trying to meditate for an hour and try to quiet everything. So again, with this whole trying is not serving the purpose of just being, because you're again trying to achieve something, and it's still in essence doing. Even the process of meditation is a doing process. But coming into this white wizard wave spell, like what we were saying, trust, the less we do, the more we will accomplish. And that is so true. And for me, from a personal experience and what's coming to me right now, with my mom, just going through her COVID journey, and how every day is just as intense, and you have fever and everything. And it's really stressful. It's scary. It's nerve-wracking. It's all your fears coming up, and I find myself going through many different emotions from moment to moment. And I'm leaning in the white wizard energy. And in the next 13 days, I would really listen how I can cultivate a deep sense of receptivity, and really, when the shamans, the white wizard is the shaman archetype. What they do is they go and travel to the spirit world to receive the medicine from the ancestors, from Great Spirit, and they share that with the person that's needing the healing. The white wizard also for me, it's like activation of our own medicine woman and medicine man inside. And for me, I feel like this is a moment that I'm really being, and I'm also a white wizard archetype. So I'm being called to really go draw deep to this space of trust and receptivity. Because when it's our family members that are going through intense, threatening diseases, there's so much of the need to control what's happening because we want a good result. And with COVID, it's just something that we've never tackled before. So no one really knows what to do, what right medicines and stuff. And for me, it's like, can I really take these deep breaths and just surrender? Can I really trust? can I really just access that place where it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. I've done everything that I can in the 3-dimensional realm, in the physical realm, to support the rest. I just have to surrender and receive. And perhaps it's not just me that's going through this. Maybe many others that are listening are going through stressful, really incredibly stressful times. And maybe perhaps this is an invitation to really slow down and find our next steps by being quiet, by being silent.
That feels like a nice point to just bring that to that. I think you just covered everything so beautifully there. I really appreciate you, Lee. I really do.
I do too, Mark. Thanks for letting me just.
I think you're right. There's a lot of people going through this, and that white wizard is like the hollow bone that can be the conduit. And I appreciate you for all that you are in that.
Well, before we wrap up, I'm looking at Rome's birthday.
I've already looked it up.
Let's see. Oh, you did? Okay. What is it?
So everyone watching, we every week we're going to be doing a free mini reading. So we work with the Mayan dream spell archetype. Everyone has an archetype based on their birthday. And so Lee and I will be just towards the end of every session bouncing around and giving a little mini reading for one lucky person. And for today, it is Rome. And so Rome, big shout out, my friend. Are you, if you can let us know, Rome, did you want to jump on the screen while we do this? Or do you want to just sit in the background and do it and we can voice it to you? Here we go. Lee, I want to introduce you to Rome. Let's bring him on, and then I'll tell you what his, and Rome, let me get you in the spotlight here.
Okay.
Hi, Jason.
Hey, Lee. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Hey, all right, and I see we've got Jason in as well, my old friend Jace. This is actually really interesting synchronicity because Rome, we have put in your date of birth, and in fact, here, let me screen share this. I'm going to bring this up so that we can see what this image looks like. So ignore all the tabs, my man. This here is your galactic Mayan signature, Mayan dream spell signature. You are a yellow galactic warrior. And that's the symbol there, the blue and the gold. And it's, I harmonize in order to question. Modeling fearlessness, I seal the output of intelligence with a galactic tone of integrity. I am guided by the power of universal fire. So Rome, you are a yellow galactic warrior. And the reason I said this is quite a synchronicity, Lee, is we've got Jason Bart, who's joined us in the chat in the back there as well, Jason is a dear friend of mine. We've been friends for 11 years, jumping off cliffs, taking all kinds of crazy adventures. And in all of our madness, he's always been by my side. And he is a yellow resonant warrior. And before that, and then to add on to that as well, ex-partner of mine, an ex-beloved, was actually a yellow galactic warrior, just like yours, Rome. And so I'm sitting there, I surround myself with your archetypes. And ever since I met Rome on Nacho Average in one of the Zoom calls, I've just loved you, man, and the energy you bring. So what do you reckon, Lee? Do you want to start?
Oh, sure. First of all, what I do love about the Mayan dream spell is that it gives us archetypes that allows us to see different personalities, energies, and characters in the world, and how we are so unique in what we bring as our mission here on the planet. For me, when I think of yellow warriors, I also have a deep respect for these kinds of archetypes because they have the ability to just question things that most people are afraid to ask. In the sense of fearlessness, to really, and it could be a strong archetype too, but it's so necessary because there's so many things in the world that needs calling out. And I find that the yellow warrior people, most of the time are in a position of calling out these things. That's really deep sense of fearlessness. A warrior that's not losing sight of the focus. Hey, I know this is not right. Why? Tell us. It's this pursuit, but the pursuit is based in intelligence. I find that the yellow people that I know are just naturally into learning, a lot of just this inner intelligence that happens because the questions come from that place where I want to know. I want to know the answer to this. Why? This is the biggest thing for yellow warrior people that I know. It's why. If you tell them something, it's like this constant, it's arriving at a certain truth and questioning that truth over again. And it's just like this rabbit hole of like, never fully arriving at one truth per se, but yes. And for me, galactic people is this for the word integrity. It's really important to move with integrity in the world. You're not just like talking the talk, but really like being the model of it and embodying it in your life, in your action, to integrate all these things that you're knowing, to act with integrity. And I love how Brene Brown described integrity. It's doing the right thing when no one's watching. Can we really do the right thing when no one is watching what we're doing? Especially in this world of social media craziness, where we want to present ourselves in a world in a different way. So yellow warrior people, thank you for the fearlessness that you bring into the earth, especially for the earth warriors that are really, paving the way so that we all can awaken this state of fearlessness inside of us and start to really question what is wrong in society and everything else.
How'd that land, Rome?
That was like dead on. Thank you. Like a lot of the stuff that was like, wait, that's me. So yeah, that's super dope. But the real quick, it's like you said, everything kind of connects. When you first went to the screen share and you showed the yellow galactic warrior symbol, it's weird because in 2010, I did this drawing of like a vulture, and I had to look on my Facebook to look at it real quick. But the symbol I drew, like the logo, kind of looks like that symbol a little bit. So I thought that was really weird. But yeah, that's why I was saying it's cool how everything kind of connects, no matter how far apart you think things are. One way or another, they always seem to connect. You can always connect them. So I said I definitely dig that, and the whole why part, 2 thumbs up, because that's a definite for me. Don't tell me something if I can't know the why.
Absolutely, man. And hey, Rome, it's like you say, this synchronicity, like this is the yellow warrior, this archetype, it's the pathfinder. It's the one that needs to find the path. It's traditionally, when I tell the archetypal stories of these different, evolutionary phases, it's like the yellow warrior. It's like, you think like to some kind of like Aztec warrior, with the headdresses and the paint, in the face, and they're on a mission. You got all the villagers, they need to move village, right? They need to move, there's danger, they need to get away. The warriors were the ones at the front that were kind of so present. They were listening to the earth, they were watching, and they were looking, and they were checking, if they need to cross a bridge, the warriors come first and check the integrity of the bridge. Is it in integrity? Is it going to hold the weight for the villagers that are coming? They're always testing that edge. And it's with the dream spell signature, it's also important to look at the wave spell, which is the underlying current of why you're being a warrior. What are you being a warrior for, right? And the yellow galactic warrior is in the wave spell of the red moon. And the red moon is, it's the universal flow. It really is just like that feminine, just as women, biological women, as they go through that monthly, flow state, there's a time of purification, of flow, of letting go of control to receive the intuitive wisdom of God. We get that through that surrendering into the flow and then bringing that in for the warrior to walk with. And so in a sense, it's like, you are a warrior that is here to fearlessly question, what does it take? How do we find our way back to that flow state, right? Where, to that natural, organic, beauty that comes from the feminine aspect of our humanity. And so it's a very powerful, in a way, masculine archetype of a very feminine purpose, which is a beautiful balance. And I see you represent really well, brother.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for that.
And did you say that Jason is resonant? So
yellow, resonant warrior, the way it's spelled, the white dog.
So there we go. Like, we're looking at the galactic is moving in a different way, and then the resonant is also expressing itself in a different way. But even though you're both yellow warrior, the expression of Jason might be more of the channeler, because the 7 is a 7 archetype in between the 13. There are 6 tones before it and 6 to go after. And there's, 7 is a mystical number. And 7 is about inspiration, to channel and to attune. So for Jason's archetype, the way that this yellow warrior is being expressed is, he is in that state of channeling perhaps the questions, channeling perhaps this, this fearlessness and inspiring. Inspiration is one of the codes, channeling and attunement. So this archetype of the yellow warrior that Jason is in is helping us to attune to the spiritual purpose of why we are here. With the things that he realizes in his journey, because the warrior is always on a quest. And this Basumi breaks the question down. She says, always quest I on. This is the archetype of yellow warrior, always in their own quest. And not about everybody's quest, but in your own quest I on. And just like that symbol, right? It's like a question mark that is an energy going down, right? Because it's this biggest question of why. It's kind of like that person that leaves the village to go on a quest, and everything it's learning in its way. Like for Jason, the resonant, he's sharing that and channeling that with the world, and by doing so, his expression is inspiring people, helping people attune. And your expression, the galactic, is all about, how do I integrate all these things I'm learning in my journey? Because it's not so much about telling people what to do, but being the model of that. It's integrated within you. And by me looking at you, Rome, that's like, okay, it's that sense of walking the talk. You're not speaking the words, but by watching you are integrating it into your life. And that's the impact you create in the world, integrated with the body of work that you do, whether it's your art I'm seeing there. So yeah, it's just an amazing lens to view our own selves in relation to what we are doing here, in this body and what we're doing here on the earth. So again, thank you to all of you amazing humans. I'm so glad to meet every week.
Same. I've thoroughly enjoyed tuning in every week. Well, every week that I've been able to.
Yeah, really appreciate it, Rome. You are such a magical. I look forward. Lee, we've met so many incredible people through this. And if you're watching this on YouTube or Twitch, it's a decentralized platform, BitClout, that kind of brought a lot of us together and inspired this movement. And we're going to be stretching out to the rest of the world with this as well. But BitClout's our home for this Satsang for the soul. And I've got to meet so many amazing people. We've got Michelle and Miss Katienne, who have both joined us in the chat
ladies.
as well.
Thank you, Jason. I'm seeing his chats too.
Yeah. Jason was going to come on, but he had to jump to another call. So, but I just want to say so much love to all of you that have made it. Oh, who is that? Oh,
it's Katienne.
I just wanted to say hi. Sorry, I had to unmute.
Well, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. So for everyone out there that's watching this either on a replay or you're watching it live right now, we're going to be doing this every week at the same time. So it's 10 p.m. EST. That's 10 a.m. Tuesday morning. So 10 p.m. Monday EST for the American crew, and 10 a.m. here in Perth, Western Australia and the Philippines, where Lee and I are. And so everyone is welcome every week. It's a safe space to come. We're just going to explore, themes that are really up in the consciousness right now and have a dance. And at the end of every session, we're going to do a free mini reading for some lucky attendee. So Rome was the man today, and Jason got one thrown in there as well. Although Jason gets it on tap from me all the time as well. So he's always loving that. And we're so lucky to have these warriors around, Lee. So please, Michelle, Miss Katian, would love to see you guys next week. Bring your date of birth if you do come, and we'll give you guys a little mini reading there. And so much love. And with that, I will hand you over now to Lee, if you'd like to bring us in. So Rome, everyone, thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you all for joining us here tonight or today, wherever you're tuning in from. And leaving you with a song. It's I didn't write this, but it's a beautiful song. It's called Sailing by Christopher Cross, and it makes me think of this moment of what's happening like in my life and what's happening with the world. And if you feel like you're in a place where you're out there in the ocean in a sailboat, and we know how sailboat works, it needs the wind. But sometimes we find ourselves in a place where there is no wind and we feel like we're just out there in the middle of the ocean. Could be nerve-wracking, could be stressful. And I think for me, this what I'm experiencing in my life right now is like, if I could have an example of it or a metaphor for it, is that I feel like my boat is out there again in the middle of the ocean with no wind. But can I just trust that I'm gonna make it through? Can I just trust that everything is gonna be okay, that the wind is gonna come and it's gonna blow my way and it's gonna blow me into safety? And I think about this song, and that's why this is the song I want to end with today. It's called Sailing by Christopher Cross. Let's see. Well, it's not far down to paradise, at least it's not for me. And if the wind is right, you can sail away, find tranquility. Oh, the canvas can do miracles, just you wait and see. Believe me, it's not far to Never Neverland, no reason to pretend. And if the wind is right, you can find a joy of innocence again. Oh, the canvas can do miracles, just you wait and see. Believe me. Sailing takes me to where I've always heard it could be. Just a dream of the wind to carry me. Soon I will be free. Fantasy gets the best of me when I'm sailing, all caught up in the reverie. for me. And if the wind is right, you can sail away, find serenity. Oh, the canvas can do miracles. Just you wait and see, believe me. Sailing takes me away to where I've always heard it could be. Just a dream of the wind to carry me. Soon I will be free. Thank you, Mark. Thank you for everybody who tuned in. May we all sail along in this ocean that we are in. May we all cruise along and make it out of this storm with ease, with grace. May there be peace to everyone, especially those who are experiencing suffering right now. May there be peace inside of us. May there be peace amongst each other. And may there be peace all around us. Namaste.